we've been talking about our Connect test procedure, 30 years of Connect and so on, and time flies. And I checked up how long do we work together with P3 and Umlaut, and now Umlaut by Accenture, and it's more than 16 years. And he's one of our strongest partners. Umlaut is the base for the quality in our network tests, and therefore I'm very proud to have Hakan here. As I said, we know each other more than 16 years. We've been this size when we met first. So he's the CEO of Umlaut. Hakan, good to have you here. And he's going to give you some impressions about the future of network tests, fixed line, and mobile. Hakan, I'm really interested in your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dirk. Good. Yeah, Hakan Ekmen is my name. I'm the CEO of the company called Umlaut, and since 19 months I have a second role. I'm running the network practice in Accenture. We have been acquired, and there was a discussion 19 months back what will happen with the cooperation we have here with the Connect magazine, and for sure there was no question we will continue the collaboration, and we will also expand this. And thank you very much, Dirk, for the invite. Coming to the evolution, we are developing our benchmarking framework along the journey here as 2G started with connecting humans, like with voice and data, with voice. In 2000, mobile data came. This was the period as I came into the industry, was GPRS, and then also connecting humans. In 2010, we saw the initial mobile broadband and also connecting IoT devices. And then in 2020, we saw then machines, devices more and more coming into play, and mobile broadband was really visible, especially with 4G and 5G. And when we look to 2030, then we will see, or we're expecting the mobile holograms, the haptic communication, and high-resolution media. A lot of things are upcoming, and it's important for us to know what is next, because we want to be close to the technology with our benchmarking to get the acceptance from the industry. This is a snapshot where we are with 5G at the moment. On the left place, you see the development in the last 6 months. We have seen launches in Africa, 3 countries where 5G was launched. We see the green-colored countries are the ones where we don't see progress because it is already very mature. It is UK, Italy, Netherlands, and Switzerland in Europe. It is US and Australia where we see good development of 5G. We see Canada not progressing, for example, in the last 6 months, and also in China. And then in Europe, a lot of countries step by step progressing. Then, an interesting figure, still low devices are 5G capable, around 17%. And we see also in Singapore, India, US, in Australia, South Korea, and Thailand, 5G standalone networks more and more visible. And when you see, for example, in Germany, around 30% 5G share, when we look really to the airtime on 5G. Still, 70%, more than 70%, is not on 5G. And this is coming directly from the same data where we do our benchmarks. It is our crowdsourcing data. Around 500,000 users in Germany, and worldwide around 200 million devices where we are collecting this data. Around 90% built-up coverage worldwide is covered. The benchmarking framework. This is something we're discussing with the Connect colleagues, with the VK frequently. What is the purpose, how this framework should be used? We see here 6 areas. One is for sure the benchmarking. which is so obvious, measuring networks against competitors in or across markets. We see then the historical view. We can see the trends, if the rollout activities are really paying off in user experience. Learning from best in class. We have here operators in Europe like Swisscom, KPN, Deutsche Telekom, or Sunrise and others having really high score. And then from these networks, others could learn and understand how they're doing it. Then manageable targets. We see often when you have to bring the transmission, the core, the radio teams together, one single score is helpful because everyone has the same target. Therefore, in manageable targets, everyone knows what to do during the year and what should be achieved as one team. And priorities, you can set priorities easily with the benchmarking framework, and then you can also see special unique performance profiles. You can, for example, compare what is the best Nokia network, the best Ericsson network, the best Huawei, ZTE, Samsung network, or the Mavenir, or checking also when someone has introduced 5G standalone, you can really check what the technology is capable to do and compare this. It's all in the data. And it's available across 190 countries. 190 countries, except US and UM-bank countries, the data is available. This is a snapshot now on the mobile networks worldwide and the scores as of last week. Means the green colored countries are having high scores. You see, for example, Canada has a higher score than US. Now, the share of 5G is in the US higher, but in Canada the scores are higher. Means very strong 4G networks, and when 5G is there, it's very strong. You see Australia, South Korea to mention here. In Europe, you see a lot of green colored. It's very mature, the performance. And in Africa, here the trend is also positive. Last year, the scores have been much lower, like the ones here in yellow or in orange. Now the networks are becoming more and more mature. This is the top 20 and the last 20 of the 190 countries. We see, for example, South Korea, Netherlands, Switzerland, Luxembourg, high scored. I saw recently the South Korea scores are very high. That is, they did the progress. And we see, for example, now here countries like Eritrea, Ethiopia, Yemen behind. It depends also on the rollout status for sure. We will share the slides definitely also afterwards. We will not hide anything. Then fixed broadband. With the same data, we're also evaluating fixed broadband. Why in-home performance is equally important like in mobility, sometimes even more like during COVID. On the first floor is your wife with yourself. On the second floor are the kids, and the connectivity was a concern during COVID, and then we enhanced a bit the fixed broadband benchmarking capabilities, and you see here also well-developed countries, and here we see Africa a bit behind. Also here, for example, Turkey or I think it's Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, a bit behind, but for example, North America, well covered. Fixed network very strong in North America, in Latin America, in Australia, and in Europe, India, and we see here in Africa, countries a bit behind. Also here, South Korea, Switzerland, Luxembourg, to mention Iceland, one of the highest scores in fixed, and here to last 20, South Sudan, Yemen. We see here also with these countries a development. We see in fixed and in mobile trends also in the last 20. I skipped the trend slides for today because of the 20-minute slot. That's an interesting metric we have here, is the low latency. Everyone is talking, or maybe 1 year back, everyone was talking about metaverse, and one of the prerequisites for metaverse is low latency. And we see here, when this is completely green, then metaverse, the world should be metaverse ready. You see there's a one-to-one mapping for sure with the fiber deployment happening in the world. You can assume is the best operator per country, and this is the share of also the fiber deployment happen in that country. You see South Africa, in Australia, you see the populated areas in Australia. The rest of the country is not covered with low latency, but the ones where the population is, it's covered. In North America, you can see this, in Latin America, and you see in Europe, in the last 2 to 3 years, at least one operator or one initiative ended up in fiber deployment, and then also a low latency. Interesting map. We are generating these maps on postal code level worldwide. And I really can do the deep dive on postal code level in Germany, im Oberbergischen Kreis. What is the fiber deployment status? Then coming to one request from the industry, we do one round every year with the operators, and we're asking them what is important for you. Also this morning here, one of the operators asked us how to face the issues when the energy efficiency is coming into play, when everyone is implementing energy-saving features in the network. What is with the framework? And the answer is we have a metric. The metric we're calling is the reliability metric, most reliable network, not the best network with the highest throughputs, with the best switch quality. It is the reliability, what is a concern. And we received, I think, from 50% of the operators worldwide, the question, how you will derive and develop your framework to cover sustainability. And the answer is our reliability score. We may have in the upcoming Connect magazines a study about this. We talked about this morning, that it would make sense to do a deep dive on this. The idea is when energy efficiency is coming to play, keeping the reliability success rates, the minimum throughputs across the country on a level that voice, video, and other things are really working. But for sure, we're cutting the highest throughputs above 50 or 100 megabit. Do you need 4.7 MOS speech quality? We can question that, but I think video interruption-free should still work. No, you cannot switch off the 4G layer because of energy savings. You could do it partially. And at the moment, also in the regular framework, 55% of the score is reliability. It means even in the best network, the Connect test, best network, 55% of the score is already considering reliability. But we have for the 55% a separate score now, which could derive to be maybe in 2-3 years' time the relevant one. Now we have to see how the sustainability topic is evolving. We don't want to stress this too much, not to make pressure to the industry. We want to do it together with them. Then the future framework. We're discussing at the moment what should be considered. The reliability topic I mentioned already. The reliability is definitely one aspect to consider in the future. Then there's capacity, and low latency is coming into play. When low latency is there, I mentioned here the metaverse is definitely an interesting topic. The question is when the networks are ready. At the moment, we see, I think, on the latest map, Norway, Canada, as the two countries matching closest the metaverse requirements. Now, when it comes to low latency and throughputs, all the other countries in the world, not yet. Means we are far from the metaverse, but we have a metric in our benchmarking framework which is covering the metaverse readiness. Now, the same graph you have seen here, this colored, is also available, but it's all red, except 2 countries. Connected vehicles. Here with connected vehicles, you can cover easily the mobility, the transportation. A lot of industries are interested, and also the IoT part here with the availability. The networks have to be available, not high bandwidth, but the availability is a concern. Therefore, also this part we will cover. We are discussing at the moment with also our partner here, the Connect magazine, how we can start an initiative to drive maybe several best and test seals out of this. I think the sustainability one is the most probable next, because everyone is asking for that. We have been asked recently about 6G, and then do you have something ready for 6G? Answer, no. It's not a surprise, but we started already to looking into 6G, because we have to understand what 6G will bring, that we derive our benchmarking framework according to that. Now, see Anita, with her, we're discussing the 6G status with the NGMN, and also trying to understand what could be a framework for 6G. And when you look to 6G, looks a bit more crowded. In 4G, 5G, it is voice and data. In 6G, you have to look into things like high capacity, or enabling the network with APIs. And the question is, there an interface we have to benchmark? Then service-aware connectivity-based AI means there are some algorithms running. Shall we assess also the algorithms running through the 6G network? Integrated sensing. It is, when you go to some of the use cases, this is coming to the core maybe. Sustainability for sure is an aspect which could be a category in 6G in the future. Then security, resilience. We have a security score available, which could be maybe first time interesting with 6G, because when you now would publish a security concern, it will then go and everyone will try to hack all the networks. With 6G, it will be protected. Then I would feel comfortable to go even with the security scores out, because we would not damage the reputation of an operator. At the moment, this would most probably happen. And for sure, all the interfaces which come with 6G could be interesting for the benchmark itself. These dimensions we try to understand at the moment, and we also understand that there are challenges. 6G is a bit far because 5G monetization did not yet happen. We saw here from Telefonica the nice private network activities and also the industry connectivity. Why? Because the monetization has to happen with 5G. Automation is not yet in place, therefore I think this will not come before 5 years from now. Then the devices for IoT. I asked the team to do an IoT benchmarking system. It was a box from there to there. It was a big box. It's not manageable. We need to definitely something much more manageable. I see here Keysight sitting in the audience. We may discuss maybe in a side discussion how to deal with that. This aggregation, you sometimes don't know who is really behind the SIM card. Now we need to understand this one, and energy efficiency will come with 6G for sure, much more faster. And then here, when we look a bit to what's the value, the network evolution, we look into that. Enabling industry, I think we will have industry use cases in our framework as well. Enhanced machine communication, this we could potentially combine. And then this hologram topic. Who has the best network readiness for holograms? Something like this, but this is really 5 years from now. At the moment, it is voice, it is data, it is reliability. And just one slide, reflection on us. The reason why we are looking into this benchmarking is we're working actively in the transformation of the networks with our network practice in Accenture. Around 12,000 people we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hakan. I think that's even the home turf of Bernd and Hannes, and I'm wondering whether the first questions come from them or even from the audience. Are there any?
Hi, Hakan. Shankar here. It's me. You're doing a lot of benchmarks out here, but one of the benchmarks that I think we probably might have to see in the coming future is what about a benchmark for measuring the jitter? Because per se, things that we are doing at this point in time is basically transferring packets and measuring latency. I mean, latency is always there if something goes from one place to the other. What makes the whole system, what do you call it? The quality of a system is given by if you can measure the jitter in some way or the other, or the benchmarks that you are creating in the future. Because if we have disaggregated networks, so there will be more elements coming into the network, and there will be more the risk of that you are not having the correct jitter mechanisms. That will create all kinds of issues. So I do not see it at this point in time in any of the benchmarks, and this is also one of the reasons. I mean, basically we are putting in fiber networks all throughout Germany at this point in time, but there is no way that you can say that this network is as good for a 5G URLLC system, just for the simple reason that you do not know if the fiber is good enough or it's been spliced good enough. And so at the end of the day, it's the quality of the fiber that determines how good the jitter is going to be. And here you do not have that.
Luckily, we are measuring the jitter. We are just not weighting it. Okay. No, I think that definitely, when I looked at the capacity, there was one layer was the capacity and also the low latency. I think one of the quality criteria could be the jitter, to consider this in the weighting. But at the moment, we are not considering jitter. And by the way, we are also not considering latency at the moment in the scoring as a single figure. We are deriving out of the latency. But I agree that when we look into this in the future, there might be that we do it explicitly, and jitter is definitely an important aspect. But we have the jitter. Okay. No? We have 250 criteria. We are rolling up to the score. Jitter is indirectly one of the 250, but it's not explicitly highlighted.
More questions over there?
Sure.
Hakan, good morning. You mentioned on 6G the security, and of course, security going forward is key in all mobile and telecommunications networks. What type of benchmarks or auditing or tests are you doing on the security side today in 5G networks? Because we need to keep our network safe.
Yeah, what we're doing at the moment, and this we're doing together in cooperation with the GSMA. There's a stream established where the identity tracking in the network, then we're calling impersonation, then the SS7 network, then there are related interfaces. Like the interconnection and others, plus encryption. We're checking the encryption level, if the identity is concerned, or if it's tracking a concern. The three aspects we're rolling up to, again, the famous umlaut score, 1,000 points. But when you see these scores, for sure, they're a bit concerning, therefore we're not publishing them. There's usually an interaction then with the operators, and when we do this with the GSMA, then we're doing it anonymized. Here, the trend, very strong encryption mechanisms recently, but when you see in the field how they are operationally implemented. It's more an implementation topic. The features are there. You just need to implement them. I'm happy to send you maybe a report which was anonymized. You see the scores are increasing slightly. It takes time.
Produktenttäuschung.
Thank you. In a newspaper interview, Mr. Markus Haas, head of O2, promised end of 2024, Germany will be full covered. As one of the leading test institutes, can you agree with his opinion, or do you see some white spots?
I think I can talk about this because we did a study about that. We see that the white spots are going down. Definitely. One is, for example, my hometown. I explained the story this morning. Lindlar is a place where this sharing, this cooperation the operators are doing together is paying off. We see, I think, half of the white spots from 2 years back are closed. It's really, you can really count them. You see this in slow motion. They're going down. 2024, I cannot guess. I personally think it could be 2025 when I see the progress, but I'm just looking to the reality. But I think 24, 25 is a good. I think Markus Haas is correct that maybe end of 2024 should be.
Obviously, you are measuring a lot of countries. Do you see that the gap between the best countries and the worst countries is shrinking during the years?
I think everyone is catching up because connectivity should not be a concern in the future. We see that everyone is trying to catch up with the coverage, the quality of the coverage, and then the minimum performance. That's the reason why we have to think about what could be the differentiation. Now, when all the networks are catching up to the same score, we need still differentiation. Therefore, we are checking what else we could implement. But we see more, the networks are coming closer. The best example is here in Germany. When I look 3-4 years back, the distance between Deutsche Telekom and Telefonica was so huge. My impression is they are much, much closer now than others expected. We see that the networks are coming closer.
But what about Germany or maybe Switzerland and the
also here we see that
I
think also here we see that the networks are, because everyone is looking what is possible with the networks and try to understand if they can catch up. It's more squeezing out more out of the technology instead of building new infrastructure.
Thank you so much. We are practicing seamless handover.
A seamless handover is exactly the thing.
Hakan.
So.